Welcome to this Appsmith live streaming event. We are about to get started and our host and guests are getting ready behind the scenes, testing the audio, making sure they look good on camera, but more importantly, getting prepared for your questions. But while you wait, feel yourself at home. Get some coffee or water and make sure to be comfortable to start learning and growing. In case you don't know what Appsmith is, hey, that's totally fine. We distinguish ourselves as the most powerful open source low-code platform, enabling developers to transform ideas into reality with unmatched speed, security, and efficiency. From small startups to large enterprises, Appsmith allows you to build enterprise applications that solves real business problems. You can build internal tools and dashboards connecting to more than 30 data sources, such as databases, SaaS platforms, or APIs. Then, build fast UIs using the drag and drop widgets from our large collection. And finally, define your business logic using JavaScript. If you are an experienced developer, you can build custom widgets with your preferred frameworks like React, Vue, or Angular. We literally support any JavaScript library and framework out there. But if you don't know how to code, that's fine. You can still connect your existing platforms like Salesforce, Google Sheets, or HubSpot and build incredible dashboards, reports, and apps without writing code. Alright, I got confirmation that our hosts and guests are prepared to get started. So say hi on the chat, start the conversation already, and let's kick things off. All right, everyone, welcome to the last live stream of the year. Oh my God, 2024. It's been so fast, to be honest. I don't know if you feel the same. Let me know in the chat, but I don't know. For me, it's been like an amazing, super fast year. But when I go back to everything that had happened during the year, it's like, wow, it's been an amazing ride. A lot of things had happened during the year, and I can't believe 2024 it's coming to an end. There's an amazing roadmap for 2025 and so many things coming up that I'm so excited to share, but I can't right now. But obviously, stay tuned to everything that's coming up. But today we're going to focus on something that is probably the hot topic of the year, or I will say the hot topic of the last 6 months. I don't know if you saw one of the videos that I did about having all of the AI words mentioned during the Google I/O was a crazy amount of times, obviously, and I feel that now everyone is just talking about RAG. It's like the new kid on the block, Everyone is just saying, "Oh, yeah, AI." Now it's RAG, and yeah, RAG is amazing, but we'll start unveiling some of the ins and outs of RAG, what actually means, when it makes sense to use RAG, and why not build compelling use cases that you can also implement on your end. But before we jump into that, I want to say Merry Christmas to all of you who celebrate Christmas. I'm wearing my ugly sweater here. I hope you are too. And whether you celebrated or not, I hope you had an amazing time with your family. I hope nothing but the best for you in terms of health and wealth and everything that's coming up for next year. So to start talking and discussing and maybe fighting about when it makes sense to use RAG, when it doesn't make sense to use RAG, what is his favorite feature of the year? There's some, yeah, we're going to be talking with Joseph about what his favorite feature of the year from Appsmith. I'd like to know from you in the chat, what has been your favorite Appsmith feature of the year? What has been your favorite thing you built with Appsmith? Let me know in the chat, but we're going to discuss that with my fellow friend, Joseph. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing great. What about you?
Good, man. Like the sweater.
Yeah, the Grinch one. What do you think about 2024?
Oh, man. We've shipped so many cool new features this year. You were just saying, favorite features, and my answers changed like 3 or 4 times this year. And like custom widgets and JS libraries and stuff that was my favorite for the longest time. But now we've got workflows and packages and AI integration. So it's tough to say really what's the favorite. But man, you called it on RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, being like the new trend. 2 years ago, everybody was talking about AI, and now that's out there and everybody's familiar with it and trying to use it. And now as you get more involved with it and learning individual techniques, RAG is the new big thing. So that's what we're going to look at today. We've done a few things on retrieval augmented generation already,
Right.
and on AI chatbots. So today I wanted to put a little different spin on it, something that's a little more advanced, because the content that we have so far is pretty introductory level. And so today we're going to combine those two, an AI chatbot with retrieval augmented generation. And we want to add a little something to it to be more of a business use case, more real world, instead of just that introductory, here's how to connect to it, So it's actually similar to in Supabase, they have this thing called row level security. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Kevin.
I think it's pretty much a layer of security to just make sure that you can control who can modify or access specific files or specific rows on the database in this case. So I think it's a pretty cool, flexible, and secure way to protect who can see things, and you can even build a policy like only you can access your specific data in the database. So it's kind of that. That sounds
Yeah.
reasonable, yeah.
You can make it per user or per department or whatever condition that you want to filter by. But the
Mhm.
cool thing is it happens on the back end, so that you don't need the client, the end user, to type a query that says select from database where owner equals my ID.
Right.
They can try to select all, and then that goes to the back end, and then that security, that row level security, is enforced on the back end. And so the query might say select all with no where clause, but they're only going to get back their own records.
Right.
So what we're going to do today is very similar, same approach of setting up a per user permission system, but we're going to do that with the AI assistant and the files that are uploaded to that assistant. So that's the key thing, is you don't want that data to bleed over from user to user. Again, you might want to make it per department or per team, however you want to structure it. But the key is that it's not going to be shared wide open across the entire company. So you can define those boundaries, who's allowed to access what data, and it's that same type of per user security, but for AI and for those documents that it's retrieving.
Okay, so that makes sense. So it's pretty much an assistant that I can train with my data or upload my files, and I can ask questions, and nobody else will be able to access or retrieve those files that has been trained on that specific assistant. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah. And we'll be doing that using Pinecone. We're going to use their Pinecone assistants that are made for document retrieval. They've got a easy API that makes, it's easy to upload a file and just start chatting with it. And all of this will be done in the same Pinecone account using the same single API key, but we can still segment individual assistants per user and separate where the files are stored. So just like in Supabase, you don't have to spin up a different database for each user, and you don't have to create like a different, password and database connection. It's all happening through the same one connection. So it's easy to manage and develop and scalable. But at the same time, you get that per user permission set. So that's what we're going to use today. And you could even extend that, tie it into our role-based access controls, and be able to detect what group somebody's in external to Appsmith in your SSO provider, whether it's SAML or Active Directory, OIDC, whatever you're using. You could build some permissions into the app that look at that value and then assign you to the right assistant and make sure the files go there. So today I'm going to keep it simple and just use a per user and base it off the email address. But you could easily tie it into that other stuff and make it per team or roles and groups. So
Yeah, let's keep it simple so that way people can see how powerful and easy it is. I like simple stuff. I don't know about you, but I like simple stuff. Joseph, you have to explain RAG like in 30 seconds. What is RAG for you in 30 seconds?
So it's improving the results of an LLM by providing it with extra context, extra data, without having to go through all of the process of training or fine-tuning a model. Those things actually modify the underlying model. Retrieval augmented generation, it's not changing the model at all. It's just giving it extra data. and it's extremely effective and easy to set up. You should definitely try that approach first before fine tuning. So
Yeah.
it's probably the only approach you'll need until you start to hit limits of tokens and context.
Perfect. So asteroids for your LLM, basically.
Yeah.
That's what RAG is. All right, let's do it, Joseph. Let's cut the talk and let's bring it on the table so we can start building stuff.
All right. So I'm starting out with a completely blank app here. We're going to start from scratch, and same with Pinecone. So over to the Pinecone dashboard here, you can see I do not have, actually I did one test right before we started. So let me delete this because I want to start from scratch here.
Yeah.
So I have no assistants in my account once that finishes deleting. And the only thing I do have is a couple API keys, but they're not connected to anything. So this is your empty account when you first go to the dashboard. If you go to the API key tab here, you can create a new key. And
Can
so
can you zoom in so we can see your API secrets?
yeah, you get part of it anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you'll start out here to create an API key. And when you first log into Pinecone, like very first time, there's this onboarding flow that'll ask you if you want to use your own model or their assistant. So if you choose assistant, it's just going to do a couple things for you, save you a few steps. It'll create a project and create an API key and take you to like the assistant section and do it all at once. But if you've already have it set up or you miss that onboarding or skip it, you just come here, pick what project you want it in, and the API keys are per project. So we're going to create a key and save that in an Appsmith data source, and then we'll head over to the Pinecone API docs to get the details about creating an assistant and adding a message and starting a chat and all of that. So first step here is I will just call this Pinecone RAG. Oh, and you can't have spaces.
There you go.
So we will create this key, and as soon as you do this, it presents you with the key. This is the only time you can access it from Pinecone. So you want to copy this key and go straight to the next step. If you close this window, you'll have to create a different key. And you can always regenerate and create a new one, but you'll never get that exact one again. So I'm going to leave this open and go back to the Appsmith editor. And there's a couple times that we'll need this key. So I'm just going to keep it open because in this case, there's actually two data sources we have to create, two different URLs. And so we can't just save it once and be done. We'll actually need to come back and get that key again.
Right.
So the first thing is you want to hit data on the left sidebar here, click plus to create a new data source, and then choose authenticated API. Now, the regular REST one will work, but then the key is going to be stored in the app itself in plain text. And we want to have a separate data source, get the key out of the app and put it on the Appsmith server so it's secure. So you choose authenticated API, and we'll get the URL in a minute. I want to grab this API key while I have it on the clipboard. And
can you also zoom in this page?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you'll put authentication type as bearer token, and we will paste that token in there and then back up to the URL. So I'm going to pull up the tutorial here. I have a written version of this, and this is that onboarding thing I was telling you about. If you choose Pinecone Assistant, it'll just save you a couple steps and take you right to creating that key. So the first URL is api.pinecone.io, just like you would expect. There is another data source that we'll need separate. I think it's maybe to do with regions, and like a server for US or GDPR or whatnot. So there's two, and I just want to point out, if you don't keep that key open, you're going to have to end up making a second key for the other data source. So we will call this one.
Keep the key open. So we should give you a prize for the most amount of data sources on a single app.
Yeah, this is just one workspace too. Okay, so there is the URL for the data source. Authentication type, it's API key and then the key. Maybe I picked the wrong one there. You can choose bearer token, but that's going to put the prefix bearer, and that's not actually what we want. In this case, the prefix is API key. Yeah, and I'll show this in the docs in a minute. So if the prefix, if the header is authorization and then bearer token, then you just use bearer token. But if that header key value is different, if it's like a custom one like this, then you would choose API key, tell it what that key is, and then the value for the key. So I did that wrong the first time around with bearer token. It's going to add it to the header with no prefix if I leave that blank. And then that should match the format. If you look at the API docs here for creating an assistant, you have a single header here that says API key and then the value. And then the content type, that'll be automatic. So you don't have to set that one at the data source level.
Right.
So that's what we're setting up so far, the root URL for the data source and then the API key here. And so that's it. That's everything that we should need at the data source level. So I'm going to save this one. And then we want to add a new API to this data source. When you're viewing it, you can do that right here. Or if you're back in the editor here, query, new API, and then just choose that data source. You want to make sure that you're creating that API under that correct data source so that it inherits that API key. So the first thing we're going to do is create an assistant. If I could type, there we go. Back to the API docs now. So we've got the root URL set up as part of the data source. I need this second half here for the API call itself. And then for the body of this, we're trying to create an assistant, and we need the JSON there. It's a post request. And the data here, it's just the name of the assistant and then some instructions to go with it. So we're not starting a chat yet. We're creating the assistant, that kind of persona or whatever that you want for that assistant. So this is like a one-time thing. You know, you would just create the assistant once, and then now that it exists and you have that name for it, then you can come back and use it and call it by that name. So I think we got everything needed here for the first API. We have that header getting inherited and the data. So let's go ahead and run the, oh, actually I want to show one thing before I run it.
Okay.
Let's see, I want to keep that open. Let's go back to, let's duplicate this one. Don't want to lose that page. If I look at my assistant page, it's still empty. Okay, I don't have any assistants here. So I just want to show that we're creating an assistant through the API. Got a 200 response here. It says it's been created. And if we go back here, refresh. So we've created the assistant through the API so that we can start a chat with it. You could do that right here in the dashboard. But the rest of the stuff that we're doing, you're going to want to do that from Appsmith so that the end user can interact with it through your app and connect to your other data sources and whatnot. Right. Since we're trying to build this per user, I actually got to do this creation part through the API as well, because we want to automate that in bulk and like have the next user logs in and it creates their assistant and the next one. So if I was doing like a one assistant for everybody, I might skip this step and make it through the dashboard and then just know the name of it for the API. But that's why we're starting at the very beginning here and creating the assistant itself through the API, because we're going to do this again and again for the next user. So right now it worked. I got a 200 response. If I run this again, it fails. I got a conflict. If you look at the error here, error already exists. Right. So you can only create one. That name needs to be unique. And we're going to use that in order to create an assistant per user. So I'm going to take the name here. And inside of this, I'm just passing in the Appsmith user object to get the email. And so I'm going to try to create a per user assistant with the email. This isn't going to work yet. I want to run it and just show the error. Okay. And so now we get a different error. It's invalid argument for the assistant name. So they don't allow the special characters in there, the @ symbol or the period for the email. Yeah. So just a little regex.
The regex master. Yeah.
I know, I'm kind of a regex nerd. So we need a regex here that's global, that'll replace stuff with a hyphen. Oops, that side. And then I think just non-word characters. So that should get the period and the @ And yep, there it is. It has replaced both those characters with a dash.
Mm.
And so this one should work the first time. And then if I run it again, it fails. So now I should have 2 assistants over here. And one of them has my name. So
Perfect.
this API will be, it'll have the context of the user that logs in and pass their email and create their assistant.
Right. So then you'll be able to retrieve which assistant you're talking to based upon the user, the Appsmith.user object.
Yeah, and the cool thing here is that the files are stored at the assistant level. So if
Mm.
you look in the dashboard here, you can drag files here to upload them and begin chatting with them. But we're going to upload those files from Appsmith.
Mhm.
But the point is the files are per assistant, and we're creating assistants per user. So the files will not be accessible between one assistant and the other, and you don't have to worry about one employee uploading a document from, it could be like HR, something that's more confidential for only certain people to see, and then the next user in your department's somebody that shouldn't have access to that at all. So you can use this to segment it however you want. Again, I'm going per user, but I think this would be pretty cool per team as well, or department.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
So this API will create an assistant for a given user the first time it runs. I want to make sure that there is an assistant ready for any user the first time they open the app. So I want a function that runs on page load that can check to see if there's one created already. Now, I could just run this and let it fail, but then you've got to use a try catch block around it to catch the error instead of it just having your code, stop at that point. So I think a better approach is to use another endpoint to list the assistants. If we go reference, let's see, assistant, here it is, list assistants. And so this will give us a list of the existing ones. And then we can use that API to check the response and see if there is one that matches the name yet. And if not, then we'll create it. So next, I'm going to add this API. And I want to put it under that same data source. So we'll go back here, create a new one under this Pinecone data source. And this time we are listing assistants. I just cannot type today. And there's no body because it's a get, but we do need the rest of the URL here, which is just assistants. Oh, that pasted a little weird. Let's just type that out.
Sometimes you can't type. It's weird, right?
And that should be it. This is getting the header, and there's no body. So, all right. So there's the first one, and then there's the one I just created with my email. So we can check this response for the one that matches my email, but we need a little bit of JavaScript to do that. So we'll go to the JS tab here and create a new JS object. And then I'm going to cheat here and go to my tutorial. I'm copying off my own homework. So let's see. I got some JS here for it somewhere. I think it's at the very bottom. I'm doing this slightly in a different order than I did in the tutorial.
That's okay. Actually, let me put right now in the screen the QR code. Don't scan it right now. Keep watching, but open it in a new browser tab. It should be on the community portal as well. So don't worry, it should be easy to find. But that way, after the call, if you want to just keep track of what just Joseph is explaining right now, you want to do it on your own pace, there's the QR code. And yeah, keep it up.
Cool. Thanks, Kevin. So I've got just a real basic function to run on page load here. It's an async function, so it'll wait for the response of each step here when we have a wait. And first thing I'm doing is just defining that list of assistants coming from the list assistants API I just created. Then it's getting a Boolean value here using a find. So like the assistant, if the assistant was created, it's going to do a find for the one where the name matches, and then it's just taking my email and using that same regex. So if it finds one that matches, then this ternary operator here, it'll log either it found one for the user or it'll say that one wasn't created. Now, if that's a false value here on the find, if it's undefined or it doesn't find a matching record in that list. This exclamation point here, that's checking the inverse. So if it doesn't find one, it'll run create assistant, and we can tell this entire function here to run on page load. And so back here, instead of running each one of these APIs manually here, I can just do that from the UI, refresh the page. And so I want to go back and delete my assistant. We will delete the one that has my name or my email. Okay, so that's gone. And now if I refresh the page, we double check that's set to run on page load. That should work. All right, and back here. There it is. So it's creating an assistant only if it didn't find one. So it's not going to get an error on that second attempt. It won't even try a second attempt because it's using the list endpoint first.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's just to not have an error. Like you might call it an expected error, but I don't like having any errors down here unless there's no way to avoid it. And it's a lot easier to know when something new comes up if there's you don't want to get used to seeing errors down there. So I try to approach it in a way that isn't going to have it, even if it is expected.
Makes sense.
So we're getting there. I think we are at a point now where we got to create the next data source. I mentioned earlier there's two different root URLs that we need here. And so we're going to need that API key again. So we have listed assistants and created an assistant. The next thing is that we want to upload a file to the assistant. So here, files, upload file to assistant. You can see that you need the assistant name in order to do that. And look at the URL here. It is not the same as the main one. Instead of just Pinecone, or it was api.pinecone.io. This time it's a subdomain for the server. And my guess is it's just something to do with regional, like maybe so that there's one for GDPR or for different regions. Not exactly sure, but there's more than one. And so you need more than one data source. And so you don't want to dismiss that API key is what I was saying earlier. So I'm going to take this root URL and we will create one more data source.
Yet another data source.
We're using the authenticated API again.
Perfect.
I've got so many, I just start adding numbers, and a lot of them I just use once or twice for a tutorial. That's why I have so many. So let's see, what else do we need in this data source? The API key again, where the header key is API key. So it's not authorization like some of them. You have to use that as the header for it. So we use API key, where the key is the word API key, and the value is this key again. And that's it. You only need the URL and the key, but we have two different ones. So we'll add a new API to this one now. And we want to upload a file. So the rest of the URL is assistants files, or sorry, assistant singular, files plural, and then the assistant name. So we'll put this here, and then I'm going to copy my regex from creating the assistant. Oh, wait, what did I just put that on the wrong one? That's going here. Files.
Yep. The files one.
Okay, so that's wrapping a little weird, but this is the root URL for the new one. It looks like I missed a slash there. Okay, and this is upload a file, which is a post. And then the body, let's go back to look here. So this -f, this is just showing that it is a multi-part API request with a type of file and then the data. So to do that in Appsmith, we want to change the body type to multi-part form.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the type that you're sending along, which is a file. Separate from that is the key, the name of it, which is also a file. So two different things. One of them is the actual data type. One's just the label for it.
Right.
And on their API, the label is file. And
It
then you need
happens to be file.
yeah, and then you need the data that we're uploading. So time to drag in a file picker widget here. We haven't done anything really on the UI yet.
Yeah.
All right. And now their API expects the file as binary. And if you put a file in here and then change the file type after you've uploaded the file, it still is uploaded in the old format. So I always just refresh the page after changing the file picker's data type just to make sure. So now that I have it set to binary and I've refreshed, I'm going to upload a file here. I have a PDF here that is just a article I wrote on the portal about hosting Olama locally. And I printed it to a PDF so I could talk to that document basically. So we're going to upload this file, and this upload, this button here, all that does is save it into the Appsmith editor on the client side. It hasn't sent it anywhere yet. So now I can reference that file in the upload file API back here to the body. So key is file, type is file, and then right here is the file itself from file picker 1.files and then the 0 index, because it could hold multiple and you just want that single object of the first one. So I could run this from here. I think it'll work. But I want to set it to upload right when the user puts a file in here. So what I'm going to do is use the onFile selected trigger to execute the upload file. And I'm just going to clear out the one I have and try it again to make sure that works.
Right.
Now you can see that loading state. It doesn't do that if you only upload it locally. That was the loading of this upload file. So if we look at our assistant in here and the files section, it's still processing, but it's there. You can see that it just uploaded that PDF.
There you go.
So now we are ready to chat with the assistant. One thing I noticed with Pinecone's assistants, theirs are specific to chatting with docs. And if you don't give it a file, it won't let you just do a normal AI chat like ChatGPT's assistants. They don't need a file. Theirs are made for documents like that. So I'm uploading the file first and then starting the chat. So back to the assistant. List, create an assistant. What are we looking for last? I'm going to look at my own tutorial here. Chatting with the assistant is the assistant chat endpoint. So we need to make one more API. And again, this one's going to be under that new data source. Assistant, files, chat. Okay, there it is. Chat with an assistant. Go to the curl section here. And so you can see it's that second URL, just like the one where we did for uploading the file. So to create an assistant and to list an assistant, you're not interacting with it yet. You're just managing these things in your account. And then as soon as you're actually sending data and chatting with it, those have this other URL. So it'll be assistant/chat/the assistant name. And we're going to create a new post request under that data source. That's number 2 here. And I'll get that regex again. Body type keeps resetting to none. Let's see. Here we are. Need to name this while I'm here too. This one is going to be the send message.
Send message, yeah.
Which is a post request, and then the body JSON, and we need a body message. Okay, so it's an object that has a messages property, which is an array, and then there's stream false, which you probably want to set that. The stream true is like where you're watching it type. I'd prefer to get it just all back at once and not have to wait.
Yeah.
So copy all of this data, paste that in here, and I'm going to ask it, let's see, just what's in the PDF. So I'm not even asking a specific question, or it wouldn't know what PDF I'm talking about if it couldn't see the file, right? So
Right.
just to make sure that it is looking at that right data. And I think that's it. Looks like we have everything that is needed. Let's try it out. Might need to up the timeout. So the other stuff works really quick. You're not waiting on a response. This did work, but I'm going to increase the timeout anyway. And there it is. It knows that it's about local LLMs and connecting to Llama 3 on a MacBook. So yeah, it's definitely looking at my PDF. I'm going to change the timeout here to a full minute. Probably won't need nearly that long, but most of the time, it will take over 10 seconds fairly often. So just to make that a little more reliable. We're pretty much done on the data side. We just need a UI for this now. So you can upload a file here. We want to see the response at the top. That's how it's usually set up. So you'll see the response from the LLM at the top, and that's coming from the send message, data.message, which is an object, and then .content. And I'm just going to change the style on this. We'll make it small text, get rid of the bold, maybe give it a white background here. And then below it here, we'll need an input for the prompt. I'm going to make this multi-line, and I'm going to make it fixed height, just so I can kind of line these things up. We'll have the button to upload a file and then a button to send the prompt. And you don't necessarily need to upload the file, with every prompt. Like, you could only do that once and then just keep using it to chat with, or you might upload a new file every time. That's up to you.
Right.
So this one, then the send button, we'll set that on click to run the send message query. And then we got to connect this prompt. So back to the send message API, and we'll go to its body. Okay, right here I'm hard coding the prompt here. We want to take it from that input. And I showed earlier you can do the double curly braces inside the quotes. That's really safer for if you're sending it to an SQL data source and you put the curly braces around everything, then you risk that chance of SQL injection. Same thing could maybe happen with an API like this, but if you don't want to have to put those double curly braces around every single binding, you can do it all the way around everything and then type input 1 here, like this. And so that will grab the text from there, or you can put the double curly braces in place for each individual one. More important when you're working with SQL, but sometimes I'm lazy and just put them around the outside, so I only need the one set.
You're taking the risk right now.
Let's put a prompt in here now so that we can see it over in the API. And I'm going to ask it about the benefits of this approach. And we should be able to run it from here now. I got it all connected, so we'll just send it from here. You can see the loading state. All right, Llama 3 locally, privacy and security, no need for higher-end hardware. Yeah, there it is. We're chatting with our PDF. And yeah, so there's all the benefits, man. It's definitely looking at our PDF. And then if the next user sets this up, the first time they log in, it will create their own assistant with a separate file store. So it's per user. And I think you could also use like our role-based access control and check the ID token to see if that user's in a certain group, and so you could make one for HR and one for DevOps and product or whoever it is, so that it would allow them to share and collaborate and gain that advantage without it going, beyond a certain point where you want the boundaries, the controls of who has access to that info.
Yeah, yeah, keep those boundaries up. Actually, I'm just putting right now a QR code on the screen, and it should take you to the YouTube video for programmatic access control and airbag access level, which was actually, sorry, my English is so bad today. It's actually one of my first videos in Appsmith, so you'll probably see me extremely young and thin and without the glasses. But yeah, it was one of my first videos, and you learn how to use the roles and the groups in Appsmith, which is kind of similar to what Joseph did with Appsmith.user, the user object. But then you can also access the users that roles and the users that groups, and you could basically have this type of chat or level access, not just for individuals but also per groups, or in this case also per roles, which is pretty cool actually. I
Awesome.
just yeah, I just saw you were drinking of a new mug, Joseph. Is
I
that
do.
true?
I've got a different one. Yeah, check this out. It's oh, here we go. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's a
There
daily
you go.
dev, right?
Daily.dev. Yeah, there it's in focus. There we go.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, I did a feedback session with them. I literally used it daily. I love daily.dev. It's become my go-to source to find different, programming and tech related news. And it used to be I'd look on other platforms for stuff to submit there. And now
Mhm.
like I'm finding more there and using other platforms less, So we started a group on there too. They call them squads on daily.dev. And I noticed there wasn't one for low code. So we started low
Right.
code devs, and it's for all platforms, all types of low code tech. And I try to post mainly other stuff on there. There's very little Appsmith. I do a lot of things in, I don't know if you're familiar with FileMaker Pro, but I'll use that, Google Apps Script, just anything that I'm working on. And there's several other people that have started contributing, and we're almost up to, I think we might have hit 150 people already
Yeah,
in just like 2 months.
nice.
So yeah, check it out. Daily.dev as a whole is great. And then the low code dev squad is something a few of us started.
Awesome. Yeah, just put it on the screen for anyone to join. Like Joseph said, it's not AppsMedia specific, so it's actually brought to low code in general. I've seen some amazing posts, not only from Joseph but from other people, and I've tried to post some other stuff as well about low code from other platforms, which is great. At the end, if we grow as an entire ecosystem when it comes to low code, it's beneficial for all of us, not just specifically for AppsMeet. So it's great that. You can bring about other tools. That's fine. Let's just talk about low code over there. So yeah,
Yeah.
join for sure. Awesome. So I think we're coming to an end, right? In case someone missed it, I'll put in right now again the full tutorial, the written tutorial that Joseph did, which is the perfect companion for you to go back, take a look at your own pace, create your Pinecone account, create your Appsmith account in case you don't have, and if you don't, shame on you. But you'll have the chance to, remove that shame on you and create your Appsmith account, build your first personalized access level rack chat, which is pretty amazing to have done in less than 40 minutes, Joseph.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you could knock it out in 10 or 15 minutes if if I wasn't rambling the whole time. So,
Yeah, that's true. Probably we wouldn't need this. Just 5 minutes for reading your article, and that's it.
yeah, it wouldn't be worth doing a live stream for 5 minutes, though. We got to fill some time.
Yeah, 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 exactly. What do we talk about to fill in the gaps? All right, Joseph. So this is our last stream of the year. I don't want to get sentimental, but it's been quite a journey. 2024. It's been an amazing ride with the entire community. We have seen everyone grows amazing. We have seen great community contributors. In case anyone haven't seen it yet, uh, there is an amazing community member, Sanjita, who is doing the 100 Days of AppSmith, which I honestly think is brutal and a brutal amount of work. It's insane what she's doing. I
Yeah.
don't think she's getting enough attention, but I do want you guys to, if you're LinkedIn, go find Sanjita. You can just find the 100 Days of AppSmith hashtag, and you'll see all the things she's doing. She took it seriously to learn Appsmith, and she's talking about everything: integrations, UI, queries, widgets, and her own journey. And I think it's very valuable to bring those type of things which had happened in 2024 and so many others. We have seen amazing contributions from many of the community members. So to you, community, thank you so much for 2024. And Joseph, I don't know if you have any highlight, any recap that you can remember about this year.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention her as well. I'm glad you
Sure.
did. It's been amazing watching her progress, and she even joined the workflows beta, and now she's doing integrations showing how to use our workflows and to trigger it from a webhook, and just every feature you can think of. She has learned it all in a really short time and put out tons of awesome content on it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And for next year, we'll come up with something to encourage everyone to do their own journey. Like, it will be amazing if not only Sanjita but a lot of people will do something similar to share their own journey learning Appsmith, because everyone is different, and learning such a huge platform and solutions as Appsmith, it can be different for different people. Depending if you're a backend, a front end developer, and your own story and whatever you know about technology might be different from you. So we'll love to see those journeys, and we'll encourage that for next year. That's one of the goals that we have for 2025. But again, looking forward for it. Take some rest as well. I mean, it's been quite a year. It's been a weird year as well. Like, it's one of those years that you say it's been amazing, but also it's been crazy. So take some rest and look out for 2024. I want 2025, sorry, not 2024. And Joseph, any closing words for our lovely community?
That's it, man. Just really excited that where we're going with where we're headed with it. We've got some awesome new features coming out next year. Can't say too much about it yet, but yeah, it's been an amazing year, and looking forward to 2025.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joseph, as usual, and we'll see you next year, everyone.
All right, thanks everyone.
Bye bye. Take care.